Well, it's October, and what better time of the year to look at some of the creepier locations in Michiana? These allegedly haunted places have histories going back more than 100 years. Are they merely creepy old buildings, or are they haunted by the ghosts of the past? I'm ABC 57's news producer Pierce Turner, and my photographer Rebecca and I wanted to find out for ourselves, so we went to investigate. What we found may just scare away your skepticism. Our first stop was the Tippecanoe Place Restaurant in South Bend. It has a reputation as one of the most haunted places in Indiana, and it's not hard to see why. The house historian tells us it was built in 1889 and has served the community in many ways. It was once home to the Studebaker family, a hospital during World War II, and even a school from 1945 to the late 60s. Most of that history is preserved to this day, like the oldest elevator in Indiana, still being used by restaurant staff. But those employees may experience a little too much of that history.
Everybody who's worked here has experienced something.
Doug has worked here for 8 years and says spooky experiences are so common that he barely reacts to them anymore.
I myself, I've heard my name called and there's nobody there.
He took us on a tour of the mansion and showed us all the places where something has happened. Like the staircase where a woman hanged herself in 1920. People say they've seen shadows and a ball of light fly up the stairs.
Something's going on. It's a little bit chilly in here, isn't it?
In this room where Clement Studebaker worked. He was a co-founder of the Studebaker Foundation and the original owner of the mansion. Doug tells us that this room often feels suddenly colder than the rest of the house. And that cool air is often followed by the smell of cigar smoke. Doug and others have even reported seeing pictures move or swing on the walls. He also told us about this photo from the bar, which seems ordinary enough, except that soldier standing there allegedly wasn't there when the picture was taken. As it turns out, Michiana is full of historic places, full of stories, and we wanted to hear more. We went to the Bristol Opera House, a building that's more than a century old. And though there's no record of anyone dying there, it was once home to a doctor's office, and it's possible someone passed away while receiving care. Despite its vague history, volunteers are convinced they aren't alone.
There are considered to be about 5 ghosts in the building. The first one that people really started talking about a number of years ago is a guy named Percy. He lived here, and there is some feeling that he likes to play with tools. And we also have a little girl named Beth who sometimes is seen on stage or peeking through curtains.
We investigated the building with Jeff Price, a former Mishawaka police officer who now enforces the law closer to Chicago. His night job? Michiana Paranormal Investigations. He's a self-proclaimed skeptic and just wants to get to the bottom of paranormal activity. He says finding the truth at a haunted location isn't unlike investigating a crime scene.
Part of it was, really going out and trying to find the truth, finding what is causing these things.
I donned a head-mounted GoPro, and we used his specialty gadgets like a night vision camera and a device that measures electromagnetic fields. We also used a recorder to ask someone, or something, some questions. Is your name Percy? What about Beth? We didn't hear or see anything out of the ordinary. That is, until right before we started to leave.
This is our last chance before we head out here, so if there's anything else you'd like to tell us, now would be the time.
Did you hear that? Let's play it again. We didn't hear that until we played back the recording, and our mics didn't pick it up. It was only audible on the audio recorder, where it was so clear, it almost sounded like whatever was making that sound was right on top of it.
It almost sounds like a breath. It wasn't me, it wasn't you.
The noise convinced us to have one last session of questions, but we never heard anything else. Was it just the sound of an old building, or did we hear from the spirit of someone long gone? We may never know for sure.
Sometimes noises just happen and you can't explain it. It's the world of the paranormal.
Well, it's impossible to say for sure if these places are haunted. What I can say is that the history of these places lives on forever, whether that's through pictures and architecture or through something a little scarier. I'm Pierce Turner with ABC 57 News, and happy Halloween, Michiana.